I get it. When you're hunting for a new bass, you're not just scrolling through a list of specs and hoping something looks good on paper. You want something that fits into the messy reality of rehearsals, gig nights, and the occasional bedroom jam, and you want to be sure you're not throwing away cash on a fancy-looking instrument that ends up feeling like a compromise. That's the exact place most players find themselves before they click Add to Cart. You wonder if the multiscale concept will actually make your low strings feel tighter, whether the neck wood will hold up under heavy string tension, and if the pickup layout will give you the tonal range you need without a ton of tweaking. The fear of buying a bass that sounds great in a showroom demo but turns into a headache on stage is real, especially when you're eyeing a premium-priced instrument. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Ibanez SRMS805DTW, the SR Bass Workshop 5-string multiscale, throws a lot of buzzwords at you. Walnut/mahogany body, Panga fingerboard, deep Twilight pickups. But let's break down what those actually mean when you plug it in at home, get it out of the case, and start playing a set. First off, the multiscale design is the headline feature that most people ask about. The longer scale length on the low B, 34.5 inches, versus the higher strings, 34 inches, is meant to tighten the feel of those chunky low notes while keeping the upper strings comfortable. In a practical sense, that translates to less string buzz on the B and a more defined low end when you're playing slap or fingerstyle in a live room. I've seen guitarists who struggled with floppy low strings on a standard 35-inch scale finally get that crisp attack they needed after switching to a true multiscale bass. If you spend a lot of time in the sub-bass region, think funk, progressive metal, or solo work that leans heavily on the fifth string, this design can be a real game changer. On the flip side, if you're mainly a 3 or 4 string player who barely uses the B, the extra scale difference might feel like an unnecessary complication. The neck still feels uniform under your hand, but you'll notice the subtle shift in tension as you move across the fretboard, which can be a little odd at first. The body construction, walnut and mahogany layered with a poplar burl top, gives the SRMS805 a visual depth that stands out on stage. Walnut tends to add a warm, slightly woody mid-range, while mahogany contributes a solid low-end punch. In real-world gigs, this combination seems to blend well with both clean amp settings and overdriven tones. When you run it through a standard 4x12 combo, the bass still fills the room without getting muddy, which is something many players struggle with on 5-string instruments. The deep Twilight humbucking pickups, positioned at the bridge, provide a strong, focused output that cuts through a full band mix. In practical terms, you'll get a tight low foundation and enough definition on the higher strings to make melodic lines audible even when the guitars are screaming. That said, because the pickups sit farther forward than on a traditional 4-string bass, some players notice a slight emphasis on the mid-range when they dial in a lot of gain. If you prefer a very scooped sound for heavy metal, you might need to pair the bass with a dedicated EQ or a pedal that tames that mid-range hump. The neck is a Jatoba/walnut hybrid, and the fingerboard is a Panga, a type of exotic wood that's been gaining popularity for its slightly oily feel. The wood choice isn't just marketing fluff, it actually impacts how the neck reacts to temperature changes and humidity. In my experience, the Jatoba core gives the neck a sturdy backbone that resists warping, while the walnut veneer adds a bit of warmth to the tone. The Panga fingerboard feels smooth, almost like a polished stone, which can reduce finger fatigue during long sessions. If you've ever played a bass with a glossy maple board that gets sticky after a sweaty set, the natural oiliness of Panga can be a relief. However, that same smoothness can make it a bit too slick for players who rely heavily on heavy fingernail attacks. You might find your right hand slipping a bit when playing aggressive slap techniques. A light touch or a small piece of fingertip protection can solve that, but it's a subtle trade-off. Now, who should seriously consider the SRMS805? If you are a gigging bassist who already knows the advantages of a 5-string platform, especially in genres that demand deep low-end presence, think funk, progressive rock, fusion, or modern metal, the multiscale feature will likely give you the extra definition you've been missing. The instrument also suits studio players who need a versatile tonal palette without swapping guitars. The combination of humbuckers and the walnut/mahogany body delivers both clean articulation and gritty growl, so you can cover a wide range of sounds in a single set. Additionally, if you value aesthetics and want a bass that looks as interesting as it